Crolister, the master opponent. Hi guys. Continuing on from the Namco Museum Showcase long plays I did, in this video I'm going to do a showcase video of several other Namco arcade classics on the Nintendo Switch that are available as a part of Hamster Corporation's Arcade Archives lineup. I must warn you, this is going to be a very long video, like 3 hours, a little over. So, make yourself comfy as you enjoy watching me play these arcades by Namco. So, the first game we're going to play is Galaxian, which is Namco's third arcade game, though the most recognizable of their older ones, their oldest ones. Because it was like the first game to ever be in actual full color, and the first to use parallax screen technology, like a foreground and a background. It was also largely credited for its sound effects and its iconic character sprites. And while the game is kind of a knockoff of Taito's Space Invaders in a way, that was like what a lot of arcade games back in the day were anyway, so... As some of you may know from my videos, I'm pretty good at this game, so... yeah. Like with the Namco Museum video, this is going to be a showcase gameplay video, meaning I'm only going to play each game for a little bit before I move on to the next one. So for Galaxian, I'll just do one stage. And then for bigger games like Dragon Spirit and Ordyne, I'll play like a couple stages. For example, this next game, Navarone, is a very simplistic one, compared to what you would expect from Namco after having a game like Galaxian, that came out sooner. You just move a cannon around the bottom and sides of this peninsula as you shoot off the targets on the island while dodging the cannon's bullets. Although you cannot destroy the cannons, you can cancel their bullets with yours to keep you protected. And the targets rotate the cage around the skull enemy in the middle, which you can shoot while its opening is facing you for some bonus points. And that's it with this game. Anybody that got really good at it could last a good number of rounds. The Arcade Archives version of the game added additional sound effects that weren't in the original arcade cabinet for explosions and gunshots. So, got those as well. Super simple game, not much to say here. Alright, next up we got Tank Battalion, which is the first entry in its series. There's also Battle City on the Famicom, and Tank Force, which is also in the arcade, which I already played in the showcase in Namco Museum. That's also why I'm not playing Pac-Man. If you want to see the 10 arcade games by Namco that are in Namco Museum Switch, check out that respective video. Now, to tell you the truth, I actually did a recording of this video earlier than this, and it just so happens that I accidentally forgot to record one of the games while I was pausing over the transition states, so because I missed one of the games, I had to do the recording all over again, because my laptop can't do video editors. So, I'm really annoyed about that, especially with how long the video is. So I'm going to try to not make that same mistake again. So in Tank Battalion, you control a tank around the base, and you have to destroy the opposing tanks before they destroy you, or, more importantly, your headquarters. If the headquarters at the bottom of the screen gets destroyed, it's automatically a game over, regardless of your remaining stocks. So you have to protect that with your life. One detail about the game I didn't mention in my long play is that you get more points for tanks depending on how far away you are from them and if they're facing you as you destroy them. So, yeah. Battle City and Tank Force are both massive improvements on that game. Alright, here's King and Balloon, which is a game they made on Galaxian's engine and is very similar to the game in a lot of ways, as you'll see. It even has some of the same sound effects. You move a cannon from side to side, shooting off the invading balloon like aliens. And you actually have unlimited cannons. You lose a stock, rather, if the king gets taken away. The balloons will wait under the castle floor for a bit and try to take the king away. And if they carry him off the top of the screen, you lose a stock. The balloons shoot even while in formation, and you do have a little bit closer peripheral to them, so it's easier to take hits than in Galaxian. And with every 10 descents, 3 different color balloons will join together to form a combo balloon. And if you shoot all 3 parts of it before they hit the ground, you can get some more points. Especially if you exclude the white one. There you go, buddy. Alright, next up we have Rally X Original. I've been familiar with Rally X Original for quite a while, before New Rally X, because I had Revenge of Arcade, which was a computer disc compilation ages ago I had. Rally X was one of the games in it, so... I actually had that before I played any Namco Museum. On the PlayStation, I only had 1 and 3. The more common ones. I wish I could have played the others. Other than Namco Museum Encore, because that was a Japan-only release. Anyway, you drive around the maze course, using a radar to locate the locations of the flags and enemy racers. And you have to collect all 10 flags, while avoiding the aggressive racers and rocks. Within a field limit. To complete a round. One of them is a special flag, which doubles your points, if you can sustain a stock from there. As you progress, you get more enemies and rocks, and the enemies move faster than you do. You do have a way of protecting yourself with the smoke screen, which will temporarily disable them. Though you have to make wise use of it, as it depletes your fuel quicker. I'll have you know that this is not an easy game by any means. So. These guys can be a pain. Well, since that happened, I might as well show you the little, detail where you can go directly downward at the start of the race and safely pass through the enemy racers before they start moving. Not sure if that was a glitch or if they intended to do that, so you have, like, invincibility at the start, like in a lot of other games. Because that happens in New Rally X, and even Rally X Arrangement as well. There are also challenging stages, where you move faster than normal, and the enemy racers stay stationary until your fuel's gone. Then after the challenging stage, you get a different maze layout, 4 different ones in total. If you wreck in a challenging stage, you lose it and proceed to the next one, just so you know. And there's Rally X Original. Next up, we got New Rally X, which in my opinion is the completely superior version of the game. Although New Rally X is easier than Rally X Original, there's no reason why you shouldn't prefer New Rally X to its predecessor, really. The music in this one is really loud compared to the other games in the lineup for some reason. The car looks a lot nicer, the music is better, there are fewer enemies. There's a blinking yellow dot on the radar showing you exactly where the special flag is, so you can get a perfect bonus easier. There's also the lucky flag, which gives you more points based on how much fuel you have remaining upon picking it up. Some of the maze layouts are also a bit more fair with less dead ends, and the game's just better overall. The only down point to New Rally X to some people specifically is that the game is easier. Some people like the harder stuff. They like a challenge, you know. Not me, I'm a casual. Oh, that's not good. Minutes. Give me a special flag. So, in my Namco Arcade showcase, I talked about my birthday, which was November 3rd from this recording, and talked about how some of the presents I got, and I didn't actually finish talking about what all presents I received. I'm sorry about that. Well, like I said, one of the presents I got is a Galaga My Arcade Pro player. This is the one that plays the actual arcade version of Galaga and not the crappy NES version. And it also has Galaxian as well. I got a couple $150 in cash because I need to invest in Switch successor once that comes out in the upcoming year. We can expect it to be officially announced in January at the soonest. I'm pretty confident it's not going to be within this month, let alone December. I got a Funko Pop figure of Blaziken. I have a good number of Pokemon Funko Pop figures that I get at random, so I got another fan favorite to add to my collection. I got some Nintendo eShop money so I can get more games up ahead. Perfect for arcade archives once they add more Namco. And my personal favorite, I got a Funko Pop Minis Advent Calendar based on Pokemon. I've been into getting Advent Calendars for my birthday to prepare for the holidays lately. I just love them. This game, Warp and Warp, is relatively lame and straightforward. It's just, you move around the arena and shoot these tiny enemies. And every so often, this will happen, sending you into an alternate universe where you set bombs instead of shooting them. And the bombs kinda act like they do in Bomberman. I wonder if Bomberman took inspiration from this game. So... yeah. This game's boring as heck. Not a fan of it, really. The next game, though, that I have to play is amazing. Bosconian. Bosconian used to be one of the games in Namco Museum 1 that I was into in particular. So, however, Namco Museum 1 on the PlayStation actually played the game's old version. Pretty much any other compilation, starting with the plug-and-plays, would have the new version, and in Arcade Archives, you can play both. This is the new version of the game. The more forgiving version, in my opinion. It has a radar system somewhat like that of Rally X that shows your location and the location of the bases, and you have to destroy the bases in order to proceed. You can do that by shooting off you can do that by shooting off their 6 cannons, or by shooting them in the core while it's open. You can also kamikaze by driving your ship into them and destroying them that way, though that'll obviously cost you a stock. You also have to watch out for asteroids and mines. And if you're not quick to destroy a base, ships called IEs and Puras will come after you. Eventually, you'll also get formation attacks and spy ships. If a spy ship goes off the screen before you shoot it, the enemies will go all out with the conviction red. So try not to do that. And the bases also shoot missiles called Eterus in round 4 and onward. Very fun game, very straightforward. I'm pretty good at this. Alright, going back to the Funko Pocket Pops Pokemon Advent Calendar I was talking about earlier. This is actually a product from last year from this recording, though it's not an Advent Calendar I previously had. I had one earlier that had silver figures of Pikachu and the Kanto starters, and every single Pokemon in it, except for Pichu, was a Kanto Pokemon. This one has some from different generations. Double formation attack. That I have a tendency to have that happen. There we go. Alright, I'm going to show you the old version of the game as well, because the difference is pretty clear. In the old version of Bosconian, the stage layouts are a bit different. Like, the placement of the bases are different, and the enemies are also less forgiving. So the old version is harder, basically. See how in the first round the bases are further apart? So yeah. The enemies also attack a bit more consistently. So, you know. Namco decided to make some of their games be a little bit easier later on. If you want to know the Pokemon that are in this new Advent Calendar that I got, it does have all 3 of the Unevolved Kanto starters, which are the only ones that were also in the first Advent Calendar I had from this. Along with different figures of Pikachu and Eevee. And then the other Pokemon in the calendar are Horsey, Caterpie, Sylveon, Dragonite, Oshawott, Arcanine, Lucario, Pidgeot, Leafeon, Piplup, Scorbunny, Alakazam, Charizard, Psyduck, Munchlax, Ponyta, Umbreon, Lapras, and Espeon. Good number of fan favorites there. I just love how they had to make it so that your ship in this game can shoot both forward and backward. That's super useful. You just have to keep in mind that the shots stay aligned with your ship, so you have to kind of turn a little bit if you want to aim for the core of a base to destroy it that way. And that's Bosconian. Fantastic arcade classic. Alright, next up we got Pole Position. A retro racing game based on Formula One, an actual racing event in Japan. Fuji Speedway is actually a race course in real life, also in Japan. Like I explained in the Pole Position long play. I want to have you know also that I am not using save states for this video, I'm just going with my gut. And that does mean some of the games in this video are fails. Just so you're warned. You should brake and or release the accelerator to make the tighter turns. I can never get the pole position in this game. Not that matters loads. It's tough to beat this game, to be honest, so... Not that the puddle really slows down that much. The placement of the cars gets ludicrous as you survive later laps, so it can be very difficult to actually win this game. And if you wreck more than once, you basically automatically lose. Wow. That's what I get for trying to dodge the puddle. If you wreck more than once, you basically automatically lose. And there goes my chance of winning. Dang. Seriously. So, there you go. There was a fail. I still think I'm better at this game than some people are. Next up, we got Super Pac-Man. I explained before that this is my favorite of the arcade Pac-Man games. I also feel like it's the easiest one, though. So, basically you move around the maze collecting keys, which open doors, revealing the food items that you have to eat all of in order to complete the stage. Then you have these super pellets, which make Pac-Man gigantic and immune to the ghosts temporarily. You can also do super speed, optionally, while in size, and he can break through the doors. The reason why he's immune to the ghosts and why he turns big and the ghosts turn flat is because it's supposed to represent him flying over them. So. There's also the bonus roulette that appears after much of the stage is done. Basically, to do well in this game, with 4 different segments, you have to memorize which keys open which doors in order to do well. You might find this game to be the easiest of the arcade Pac-Mans if you really played it. That was my best start on the bonus. So, yeah, that's Super Pac-Man. Super fun, super simple, awesome game. Next up is Xevious, a shooting game set in a faraway world shrouded in mystery. Xevious was another one of the games that was in Revenge of Arcade on the PC, so I've known this game for quite a while. You control this aircraft called Sovolo, which has a zapper for aerial enemies and a blaster for ground enemies. This game is said to get more aggressive the more aggressively you play. As you survive on one stock and destroy enemies, the kinds of aerial enemies that will appear will become higher in rank as you play. I'm gonna have Toboids for much of the intro, though, since I'm playing the game on easy. The difficulty setting and the dip switches really affects the air enemy appearances. Die, Grobdas. So, unfortunately, I couldn't reveal a special flag in this sector, so hopefully you're not surprised. Although the rows that the special flags appear in are the same for every playthrough, their precise location is randomly decided. So if you reveal it once, it's not like you're going to reveal it again in succession. The placements of the Soul Citadels will always remain the same, though. If you memorize where a lot of them are, you can get some big points. Arcade Archives and Namco Museum DS have additional options that you can play with this game to help understand the game a bit better, including the display of the stage that you're in, which I'm actually playing with on, the current level of the aerial enemies, and the exact location of Soul Citadels and special flags. There are also various settings in both that allow you to adjust some of the game's many glitches. The stationary balls with the horizontal and vertical lines on them, Zolbaks, are the enemy's radar, and destroying them will slightly weaken the aerial enemy ranking. Now we got the infamous indestructible floating tiles, the Bakuras. I do know by heart where this Soul Citadel is. My next Scarubara. There's also a special flag here in this row. Of course I didn't find it. Now we got Torcons. Here's that Soul Citadel right there. Back to Toads. Got Torcons again. Just a randomly placed Bakura. And then we got the first Andor Genesis. The Staccatos that appear and try to corner you can make it pretty tough to shoot off the cannons, or the core, which you actually bomb to destroy the ship itself. So... Sovolo dies at the end of the session. Next up is Mappy, and just to stay safe, I'm going to cut the volume off for this game, because in my Namco Museum Archives Volume 1 long play, where I played the NES games, including Mappy, I actually got copyright claimed for Mappy for the music. It wasn't a copyright strike, it was just a copyright claim. And I muted parts of that game to avoid further hassles. So just to stay safe, I'm going to mute this game as I play it as well. I'm not sure if this applies to the arcade version or not. All the other games besides Mappy should be safe to play the music in. Knowing what songs you are and what songs you are not allowed to play on YouTube is basically trial and error, where a lot of games are concerned. So, anyways, Mappy is an awesome arcade game about a police mouse storming a cat mansion to recover items that the cat stole. And even though he clearly has a nightstick, his only means of protection is the doors. And you can slam the doors onto Meowkies, even if you're not even at the door within the floor that you're on where it has one, to temporarily knock them out. The big cat, Goro, or Nyamko in the Japanese version of the game, roams from side to side and hides behind the objects. And if you pick up the object that he's hiding behind, you can get some extra bonus points. I can't exactly do it there, because the Meowkies would have cornered me if I did. There are also these microwave doors which send out a pulse that'll send the cats out of the mansion just for a little bit and get some extra points. And later mansions also have bells and pitfalls that you can use as well. If you get really good at the game, if you're patient enough to play it enough and get good at it, the game's really not that hard. You also have to mind the spurt if you take a while to get the objects, because, the Meowkies will increase speed drastically, and then eventually Gozenzo will appear and get you. You pretty much have to endure a stage on purpose to make Gozenzo appear, though, so that's not of much concern. In between mansion layouts are these bonus rounds where you have to get all the balloons before the music that plays ends. These take memorization as well, and I can do all 4 of them with relative ease. So, yeah. That's Mappy. Alright, next up we got Pac and Pal, which is another of the official entries in the Pac-Man franchise. I'm pretty sure this game was made on the same engine as Super Pac-Man. It definitely has a similar startup screen. It has some of the same sound effects, and it has some of the same, it has the same leaderboard, high score list, basically. So in Pac and Pal, you roam around the maze and flip over cards to open doors containing food items and stuff. There are also bonus items, like the Galaxian bosses you see here, that give Pac-Man a beam that he can use to temporarily stun the ghosts. The green character that you see, Miru, is the designated Pal from the game's title. She roams the maze and picks up items, and will eventually drop them off at the ghost house to take them away. While that is technically helping you to beat the stage, you do get more points if you get every single item. So some people find her to be annoying for that reason. Just keep in mind that she's safe to touch. You also kind of have to memorize what cards open what doors in every round in a loop. And I was unfortunate enough to get the Galaxians last. And that meant I had to die. So, yeah, you just saw that. While there are no wraparound tunnels in this game, the area you see in the middle will slow their movement down drastically, and they cannot turn upward and go through the section at the top of it. You might want to remember that if it helps make the game easier for you. At least I can beat the first bonus round, as in reveal the ghost. At least I can reveal the ghost last in the first bonus round, legitimately. So yeah, there's that one. Next up, we got Phozon, which was the really obscure game that was included in Namco Museum 3. Phozon is a puzzle game derived from physics. You control this chemic around and attach mollets to it in accordance with the shape you're shown in the middle of the stage. As you're trying to attach the mollets, there's this cluster of balls called the atomic that'll orbit the stage and eventually separate to have its attack unleash. At the start of every stage, after the first stage of a world, you get this counterattack, and you can also get it by getting power mollets in the later stages, temporarily. Watch the speed of the rotation of the mollets to determine where it's going to end. Another easy-to-miss detail is that you get more points attaching a mollet if you attach it onto other mollets of the same color. And if you beat the third stage of a world with the chemic over top the chemic in the sample formation, you can get an extra life. The fourth stage of a world, as the game defines, is a challenging stage, where you fire away at the atomic and try to destroy it, I guess. Although I made short work of the first world in this video, this game gets super tedious the further you progress. So, how unfair the atomic is with its attacking after it separates into later stages, along with the alpha and beta rays, which vaporize your mollets, that can make the game a royal pain to play up to World 8. So, because of that, it's not a very fun game to actually play for serious. Just so you're aware. Alright, next up we got Libble Rabble, which is also far from being one of my favorite games by Namco. If you've seen the long play I did for Libble Rabble, I hope you can tell that I struggled during the recording. Because I'm gonna struggle a lot in this video as well. These arrows that you control in this game are supposed to be dwarves, named Libble and Rabble, respectively. And they have this cable connecting each other that you use to collect little mushrooms while avoiding the enemies. And you can also encase them to take them out as well. Every stage in the game has a well-hidden treasure chest that'll only appear if you encase it at just the right size. And then it'll unleash these Bashishi fairies, which, if you can get one of every color, will trigger a miracle. I tried to do that in the recording, and it just didn't work. There is also no option on Arcade Archives that allows you to reveal the exact location of the chest after the first and second stages, so no help there. The biggest problem with this game is that the game basically requires co-op. And I have to control both Libble and Rabble with the same controller, which is not easy to do by any means. So, These munchers are also infuriating. Can't really see how anyone can find enjoyment in playing this game solo. I gave it one more shot after this. Only to fail. I'm sure. Alright, I'm just gonna have to end the game there, because this game is ludicrous. Alright, next up we have another pole position. This game was pretty deserving of a sequel, I'd say. Hopefully you're not surprised by the fact that I chose the test course. And even then, I still failed. I just so happen to know about the rocket start that you can do. This game is significantly harder than pole positioning. The vehicle moves faster, puddles slow you down a lot more, turning is a bit more strict than it was in the first pole position, and I think the enemy cars also change lanes more frequently. The placement of puddles is also in the middle of the road in Fuji Speedway instead of on one of the lanes, so that also doesn't help. The Arcade Archives version of this game even has an option to make the game easier, which basically stabilizes your turning, and can occasionally increase your speed as you do car passing. Again, I suggest releasing the accelerator or braking to make turns while going at high speed. Shifting into low gear can also help avoid impacts with the other racers occasionally. If you wreck more than once, you basically fail again, so... Not good. Now that sucked. So... there's another fail for you. Alright, next up we have Gaplus, which is an entry in the Galaga franchise. I have no idea what the old version and new version of this game are. It doesn't really make it clear like it does in some others. I like how the ship assembles at the start of the game like that. That's a nice touch. Same as with its predecessor, insect aliens fly into formation at the start of the stage. You can even shoot them out while they're forming. And your ship can also move in 8 directions. There's also a queen that'll usually have a power-up. Like this red blaster head, which if you shoot it out, gives you the phalanx beam. You have to wait for it to fly in order to get it, though. Almost missed it. And I almost missed a chance to capture enemies as well. Almost. So, there you go. And yeah, the phalanx beam is basically the tractor beam from Galaga in reverse. You capture enemies and make them your arsenal. Now, in the later rounds of Gaplus, the game gets absolutely ridiculous. You get falling stars that'll continually appear and corner you, stopping your bullets easily. And in even later rounds, the enemies will even shoot suicide bullets. And if that's not hard enough, the enemies reset if you lose a stock, unless they have the formation fully assembled. That can make stages that are like what you'll see in Stage 4 a bit scary. There are also challenging stages. In Gaplus's challenging stages, you juggle enemies instead of trying to shoot them out of the sky while they're, flying by. With each hit, you get bounce flies that will spell out a certain word. And you get a different bonus based on what the word spells. Not that bad, huh? These stages where you got dramatic mood music playing as you're flying backwards from the enemies are a nice touch. They're hard, though. That bullet just went right down the middle of my ship and one of my Galaga. How did that not hit me? I'll have you know that this game has a lot of glitches as well. It's not necessarily a complete game, so... Anyway, that's Gaplus. Some of you may see for yourself why that game isn't as popular as Galaga. Alright, next up is Pac-Land. A game that some people see as the OG platformer game. I had some stupidity at the start because I totally forgot that jump is the directional controls. This game has a messed up control system. You use buttons instead of a joystick to move left and right, and then a different one to jump. And it's allocated as symbols for movement and the directional controls for jumping in arcade archives. So yeah, you move Pac-Man from scene to scene in Pac-Land while avoiding the ghosts and other hazards, as he helps a fairy return home. The game also has a lot of secrets you can reveal by pushing certain objects, like the helmet that protects him from little ghosts dropped by the ghosts that are in flames. You want to jump and land at the right moment at the end of stages like this for extra points. As some of you may know, Shigeru Miyamoto from Nintendo is a big Pac-Man fan. And as a matter of fact, Pac-Land is believed to be what inspired the game concept for Super Mario Bros. 1985. If you compare the games side by side, you can kind of see some similarities in certain stage formats. You can kind of see. Nice try. No, I was a tad late. Not cool. There are some important details to know about the controls as well. Pac-Man's jumping height is affected by how fast he's running, which is extremely important for some stages. Flower just randomly blooms there. Then you also have springboards crossing lakes. To make these, you're required to repeatedly press move forward as you're descending. A vital tip that no compilation this game in, or even the instruction card gives. Then the fairy returns home, and the fairy queen gives Pac-Man shoes that allow him to jump continually in the air. Then you have to return home before the spurt happens. Shy. That purple ghost that stalks you from behind is Sue, as depicted in the Hanna-Barbera cartoon, which this game is also based on. Though I said before this game is overrated, I was mainly referring to the later stages. Like, some of the later stages in the game are a bit ridiculous. Playing the first set of stages only makes the game look easier than it is. And of course, they had to censor the Pac family because of licensing issues with, CGE, you know. So there's Pac-Land. I just love this next game that I have to play. I've said more than once in my own videos that this game is complete garbage. Grobda. This game was released in 1984 and is a spin-off of Xevious. They decided that the Grobda from Xevious should have its own game, so they made this. You control it around an arena, and you have a rapid-fire laser turret that you can angle, and a shield to protect you from hits. There's a power meter at the bottom of the screen that depletes as you use them, and refills while you're not using them. While the meter is in the blue, you can block bullets and explosions with the shield. While it's in the yellow, it blocks bullets only, and if it's in the red, it becomes completely useless. You have to destroy all the enemies in order to progress, and you have to destroy them quickly. If you take a while to destroy them, the game becomes bullet hell very quickly. There are also hyper tanks, which have a shield of their own, and philosophers, which will dodge your attacks while shooting homing bullets at you. And that can make the game an absolute nightmare to play. The difference between the old version and the new version is that in the new version, after you destroy an enemy, it'll show you how many points you got from that enemy, and how many more points you get from chaining explosions in the corner. That's all the new version is. So here's the first stage to have a flosser, and I hope you can see why this game aggravates me so much. That was one of the homing bullets from the flosser. And like I said before in other videos, and the worst part is, like I mentioned in previous videos, the enemies reset after you die. So you can't afford to lose any stocks in this game at all. Seriously, that game is awful. Try to beat all 99 stages in Grobda for yourself. You'll understand why I hate that game so much. I'm not particularly fond of this game either, Dragon Buster. Though I'll take it over Grobda. And this video makes the game look easier than it is. So, there's this hero named Clovis. I accidentally pressed use Fireball at the moment I got a scroll. That's on a quest to save Princess Celia after she got kidnapped by a dragon. Clovis has to go through various dungeons and fight various boss enemies to find the gate, to proceed to the next one as he fights his way to the Dragon Mountain. The game loops continually until you game over, so there's no actual end to this game. It's very easy to take damage in this game. The RNGs are just being nice to me during this recording, so I can beat round 1 nice and clean, is all. Then at the Dragon Mountain, you fight the dragon. Every dragon in every round has a different weak point. And after defeating a certain number of them, you can get these, intermissions where Clovis finds Celia. And she can appear in different outfits as well, like the formal wear, there's a mini skirt, there's a bikini, which I've never actually seen, and there's a Playboy bunny costume. And occasionally she'll get taken by another dragon. So, you know, just know that Dragon Buster is a really difficult game. I didn't realize I had some suspend data on that game that I didn't erase. So, here's the sequel to Dig Dug. For whatever reason, after I started to use the Best for Viewer instead of my most recent upload for my end screens, this video started skyrocketing on my channel in terms of number of views compared to all the others, exceeding 600 now, and is now my most viewed video. Is this game really that popular? I did play it a lot in Namco Museum Virtual Arcade on the Xbox 360 and Namco Museum DS, and I can see why it would be fun, so, you know. Instead of digging underground, Dig Dug is on these cliffside islands with a drill, and is breaking parts of the island up among stakes to sink the enemies. A bonus item appears after sinking 3 sections of the island. And the more enemies you drop at once on the same sinking, the more points you get, obviously. So. Just messing around until I get all of them on the side. Alright, I'm going to show you the old version of this game as well. Like Bosconian, there is a clear difference with the old and new version, and it's with the difficulty and the stage layouts. The first stage in the old version is actually the stage you see in the game's demo sequence. They have different stage layouts, and the game is considerably more difficult. So it's basically the same as with Bosconian. I probably should have finished off that 5-guard there. I didn't need to be greedy. It's just a showcase. Trying to escape. Not a chance. Alright, that's all I'll play of this game for now. Alright, next up we got Metro Cross. This is a very unique arcade game from Namco's lineup. It's a game basically about running for your life. Literally. You control this guy. He's just a human man with a massive chin, just so you know. He's not an anamorph. And you have to make it to the goal as quickly as you can while smashing cans and dodging various obstacles. You need to be really good at memorization in order to survive this game. And it can be very difficult. These jade tiles slow you down severely, so try not to run over them. There's also skateboards, which protect you from jade tiles, and energy drinks that temporarily increase your speed. It's very easy to lose these, though. In this stage, you're required to power bounce along the ramps in order to make it to the goal. To do that, just hold jump as you bounce along them. And you can just keep jump held. There's no need to press it as soon as you land on the ramp. You just have to remember where they all are. Then, basically the fourth round of every set of 4 stages is a test, basically. Wow. You can bounce along the poppers even further than you can along the ramps as well. It's a lot harder, though. I beat the previous stages fast enough that this will be a sure win anyway. So, there. Alright, then, next up we got Baraduke. Baraduke was released in the arcade overseas, at least in Europe, with the name Alien Sector. The Namco Museum compilations that it was in and the Arcade Archives lineup, though, called the game by its original name, Baraduke. So that's what I call the game. Baraduke is a game about warriors visiting a marine planet to help a race of aliens called Packets, which are being attacked by Octies. Stages are completed by destroying all of the Octies, and then making your way to the exit gate at the bottom. Usually, the Octies will leave behind capsules, which can contain different items. You got gold nuggets that give you bonus points. You got packets, which you can save for the roulette to get a shield later, or to help fight the boss. There are bag-ons, which will attack you. And if you're really lucky, you can even get wave gun upgrades that'll increase your firepower until you take damage. You can kill the packets, so if you want to hold on to them, you gotta be careful. There is actually, though, a secret bonus in the game for killing the packets, like I explained in the long play that I did. Nice, I got a wave gun upgrade. You gotta be kidding me, I missed the shield with the odds in my favor. Wow. There are 8 stages with 6 floors in each. The 5th floor is an armory, and 6th floor is a boss. Bonus item, nice. Alright, a wave gun upgrade, nice. I have a maximum amount of packets as well. You gotta be kidding me! I already maxed out my firepower, and still I'm getting more wave gun upgrades. Remarkable. Now, if I was actually playing the game for myself, just casually, and that happened, that would have been a moment of need. Of course, I get no packets at all in the armory. And I somehow did not lose my shield. Oh well. And the firepower also means I make short work of the boss. So, yeah. Fantastic. Next up, we got Motos. Of the games that were in Revenge of Arcade on the computer, going back to that compilation I referenced earlier, Motos was the really obscure game in that compilation. And for some reason, I really love this game. Bumper cars in space, that's such a unique concept. You just ram off the enemy insects before they do so to you. Later stages in the game can be difficult, though I definitely think this game is a bit more fair than some of the other games. Some stages have these power-ups that can increase your power against the heavier insects if you use them wisely. You have to get them before the bugs hit them off. Like usual, I have to deal with every single blue pupa and Navicon in this stage. Whatever. There are also power-ups that give you the ability to jump. Like you'll see here. Yes, I know that this game does have wraparound. Some of the formation attacks in this game are also so lively, like that one. If you want to actually try and beat the game, you need to be very careful about which stages to actually use the power parts in. If you're really good, you can hit the fire bugs off as soon as they glide along the edge with no parts equipped. Focus. Focus. Yes. Nailed them. Unnecessary pause. I'm just hanging out here and waiting for the spiders to push each other off. And I'll deal with the final one. You also have to try and be quick about hitting the enemies off, because if you stay in the stage after one loop of the music, shooting stars will come and destroy the base. And they tried to hit you, so... Ordinarily, while I play the game, I would use a full loadout to hit the megas off on this stage, and then purposely lose a stock at that moment, so I can deal with the blue pupae and the navicons with no parts equipped, so they can be used in the later stage. No need to do that in this video, though, because it's just a showcase. I'm gonna leave after the stage. I really love Motos. This is a really neat game, I think. I'm really glad that they made a Pac-Man rendition of it and Namco Museum remix. Alright, Sky Kid Deluxe. Not sure exactly why Sky Kid needed a sequel less than a year later. Sky Kid Deluxe is a little bit different from Sky Kid Original in that the first few stages have a little bit different placement, and there are some more secrets. All I wanted to do was show that Sun to Moon secret. At least I nailed the target spot on it. Sky Kid Deluxe also has bonus stages, which are set in Arctic scenes as well. So there are more stages in this game. And there are also some different kinds of enemies and elements that are not in Sky Kid Original, like the Storm Cloud Birds. And those would also go into Sky Kid on the NES as well. So, hopefully you can understand why this is not the game I play often. Yeah, that one as well. Well, at least I actually completed the missions, despite getting no proper kills other than that in the first stage. Alright, that's enough of that ridiculous game. Next up, we got Hopping Mappy. Mappy and Fiends on pogo sticks. In this game, Mappy hops around the backyard while collecting, I'm guessing lawn objects that the cat stole. The Meowkies actually bounce in a straight line, vertically or horizontally, to their assigned placement, instead of chasing you. Meanwhile, Goro bounces around backwards in a zigzag manner and will stop to catch his breath every so often. You can in fact trample him while he does that for some extra points. And after picking up one specific item in the stage, a mystery box will appear which will send out various items that you can pick up to help turn the stage into your favor. Although hopping Mappy is pretty easy compared to some other arcade games by Namco that I've played thus far, there are some elements that make the game a little bit tricky, so that's not all easy. Some of the later stages in this game require an input cancel in order to dodge the Miyagis, and the game has no score extents. The only way you can get an extra life is by, revealing a mystery box that sends out letters spelling out Mappy's name and collecting all 5 letters, like you can do in this stage. And because of how far away they were placed, I decided against it, so I gotta get through this quicker. Every 4th stage is a bonus round. You're in an auto-scroller, and you gotta get as many balloons as you can within the music limit. After getting a certain number of red balloons, the Goro balloon will appear, and gain more points if you touch that as well. So there you go. Yeah, that's hopping Mappy. Next up, we got Toy Pop, which was the obscure game from Namco Museum 1 on the PlayStation. So in Toy Pop, the characters are a rip-off of fairy tale characters, as you can tell by Pino, which is clearly a Pinocchio rip-off, that are visiting a witch's castle to save their toy friends that have been kidnapped and turned against them. Stages are completed by opening the bottles that have the hearts and touching the hearts to open the door, and then progressing to the next room. Destroying every enemy is optional, though doing so will get you some bonus points. With the exception of the toy soldiers, all of the other enemies have a unique weapon that you must use on them in order to destroy them. That's what makes this game difficult. For example, you have to have the tires to destroy the toy cars. And then in this stage, you have to use the bombs in order to destroy the tanks, and not vice versa. You also gotta watch out for puncher traps, which are in some of the bosses. Every stage has a star or a 7 well hidden in one of the boxes. If you get 3 of them, you can do an ultimate attack that can destroy any enemy, including the wizard, that appears in every 7th stage. You also have vitality in this game, instead of dying after taking 1 hit. If you take a hit once, your character loses their clothes, a humorous way of showing you've taken a hit, and then the next hit will cost a stock. This game is better played with co-op, as opposed to trying to play it solo. Because if you're playing co-op, you and the other player can carry a different weapon, making certain enemies a bit easier to deal with. Making use of the bomb wall chance. Gotta use the pin for the balloons, which are easily the most hateful enemies in the game, since they can fly over objects and are difficult to outmaneuver. I might as well show you the star bullets, since this is just a showcase. If you get 3 stars in total, you can temporarily shoot a star gun, which can destroy any enemy. And if you get 3 sevens, you get a whirlwind attack, which can destroy enemies just by touching them. Only for a little bit, though. I recommend saving these until you need to use them in the 7th stage, where you have the wizard, since they're the only weapons that can defeat him. That was Toy Pop. Next up, we got The Return of Ishtar, which is a sequel to the Tower of Druaga. I'm just gonna skip through this quickly. Right. The Return of Ishtar is a direct follow-up to Tower of Druaga, where Gil and Kai have to escape from the tower, and Kai uses the blue crystal rod to protect both herself and Gil from various enemies. This is an actual role-playing game. You gain experience as you defeat enemies with Gil and Kai respectively, and at the end of every room, as you progress to the next room, the experience is tallied, and that can increase the selection of spells and magic power Kai has, and maximum vitality for you. The Arcade Archives version of the game also has a game guide, which you saw earlier, that shows you the map and routing of every room in the game, and can give you a tip that suggests on what you can do to survive each room. The problem with The Return of Ishtar is that the game requires co-op. And even though you can literally play it with one player, if you focus on controlling Kai as opposed to Gil, controlling both of them simultaneously and selecting what spell you want to use under pressure are very difficult. It's also extremely easy to take damage with Gil, making him a pretty unviable character to play. And you have a limited number of uses for each of Kai's attack spells and other spells as well. Except for the Fireball, which has unlimited uses, though it's relatively useless in the later rounds. This makes the game virtually impossible to one-credit clear without the use of the password system. It's a very complicated game, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I did try out The Quest of Kai, a 1988 Famicom prequel to the Tower of Druaga, which came to Arcade Archives most recently, as of this recording. And I'd rather play that than The Return of Ishtar. And even it's a pain in some ways. So. Anyway, that's The Return of Ishtar. Next up, we got Thunder Scepter. I'm stopping for a bit to remind myself of what the controls are, because the controls in this game are super unique. The arcade cabinet for Thunder Scepter, as I tried to look up a picture of one on Google Images, it has a gas pedal for the accelerator and a grip with triggers on it that I use to steer the vehicle. In Arcade Archives, you use the right analog stick for the throttle, and the shoulders for shooting. In Thunder Scepter, you pilot the spacecraft and have to reach the end with just enough power to make it to the end, while dodging various obstacles and shooting enemies. There are also these battleships. You have to destroy all of their satellites before you can shoot the main body, and they slow you down until you do. These asteroids are indestructible, so you have to just stay out of their way. Take this other one out now. You gotta be kidding me. You have unlimited ships in this game. You game over once the power meter depletes, rather. So it's kind of like pole position for that reason. So yeah, that's Thunder Scepter. Next up, we have the Genji and the Heike clans, which is like the star game from Namco Museum Volume 4. It was also, for whatever reason, the third Namco game to come to Arcade Archives, following Pac-Man and Xevious. The Japanese characters that make up the game's logo literally say Genpei Tomaden. And while I do think that should be the dominant name for the game, as it's clearly a Japanese game anyway, Namco International just thought the game should reference the real characters and the setting of the game, so they renamed it the Genji and the Heike clans. Kigekio, the character you play as, is a fallen member of the Heike clan that perished under the Genji clan's captivity, and is sent back from Hell under the orders of the rulers of Heaven and Hell to come back to Japan to fight a demon called Yoritomo. The game plays in 3 different perspectives. We saw the platformer perspective, now we're in the boss fight one. You can move your sword in different ways. I recommend holding the up direction and pressing attack as soon as enemies come at you, because that's the fastest way to strike them. Other attacks you can do are delayed to execute. After you beat the Skeletal Guardian, you can return to the overworld. Then here's the third perspective, the overhead perspective. This is not an easy game by any means. It's very easy to take damage in it, even if you play carefully. And some of the bosses in this game are also a bit tedious to go up against. At least I actually know what I have to do to beat the game, though. That's what really matters. I think I'll do just one fight with Yoshitsune, then after that I'll move on to the next game. Once you get to the midpoint of the game, Kyoto, you're supposed to look for the 3 sacred treasures, as I explained in my long play video for the game. And there is legitimately a way that you can do them in one loop through, so that you're saved from having to do the RNGs at the ending point of the game, and put you under the risk of having to go to O. I didn't really memorize what that route is yet, though, so I haven't really played this game in a while. It's a good game. There are just some parts of it that are infuriating. So, there's that game. Alright, this is the game that I missed in the original recording that I did, and I'm making myself promise it doesn't happen again. It's Thunder Scepter's sequel. There are some details about this game that do make it an improvement on Thunder Scepter. It has different elements, it has sharper graphics, there are 6 stages instead of 4, and it does what a sequel should do, basically. Though the game is more difficult. Some of the obstacles and enemies are harder to avoid. There are some pillars that require a well-aimed smart bomb in order to pass them. There are also eruptions on the ground that destroy you. So the game's more difficult, basically. It's also a lot harder to sustain your power meter. Just for the record, I have slow the power decrease rate turned on. I didn't have it turned on with Thunder Scepter original, because that game's not quite as hard. There's Bakura's from Xevious. I like the countdown that appears near the end of the stage. Take out this battleship. You have to destroy all the satellites first, remember. There, I beat the first stage without wrecking. Fantastic. Alright, next up we have Wonder Momo, which is what people would call a beat-em-up game. This game has a really long startup screen, so hold tight for a moment. It's also the final game in this video that will have a startup screen. Gotta love that Metro Goldwyn Mayer parody, where she roars like the lion. So, Momo is actually performing in a live stage, where she's acting as a superhero, protecting the world from Warumon demons. You have to approach them just right and kick them to destroy them. With each hit, you build up a Wonder Gauge. And then you enter the Cyclone to turn into the Wonder Momo form, to get enhanced abilities in defense and the ring shot as well. This guy's being a pain, and is constantly deflecting the ring shot, so I'm having trouble with him here. You can also turn into the Wonder Momo form at will by facing the audience and doing 4 quick rotations. That agitated me more than it really needed to. This game is also very hard. Enemies can spawn over top where you're going easily if you're not careful. So you really have to be careful while playing this specific game. You also want to watch out for the paparazzi. They can stun you as well. So, well, at least I got a health refill. Take this boss down. It's also kind of a pain you can't hit more than one enemy with the same kick, so... I'm gonna end the game before we see the suggested picture up ahead. Right. Next up is Youkai Douchuki. I said in my tier list video ranking my opinion on all the Namco arcade games that I've played thus far, that this game used to be an F. You're going to see why. So the game's about a boy named Tarosuke that went to hell, and is fighting his way through the underworld for a chance of having a better fate at the end, basically. This game is absolutely ridiculous to play. The way you land on platforms and the way you attack with a shot are super weird. It's very difficult to sustain a charge shot. Some enemies essentially require charge shots to pass through them. You can't auto-fire if you're in shallow water. Enemies spawn over top you consistently throughout the game. And the longer you survive on 1 credit, the more aggressive the aerial spawning enemies become. Eventually, you'll get cornered consistently by enemies that kill you with 1 hit that takes several shots in order to destroy themselves. And I honestly can't see how any people can really find enjoyment in playing this game. Legitimate. Frogs can't hurt you. Although I think frogs might be an animal associated with the devil in some religions, and because this is a game about being in Japanese hell, that does kind of make sense. These rolling rocks also infuriate me. The entire game is spawned right over top where you're about to go. Never fails. I can't even go through here. Critical health for the boss. That's not good. By any means. No. No. Maybe I should have put that game in F after all. Seriously, that game is not good. The next game that I'm playing, though, Dragon Spirit, is amazing. At least in my opinion. Awesome animation of a bird turning into a dragon. Here we go. This is another shoot-em-up where a prince named Amur turns into a blue dragon of legend to fight a resurrected demon that kidnapped Princess Alicia. The game has fantastic music, and if you're playing the new version, the game's honestly not that hard. You just have to memorize where the placement of all the enemies and stuff are. It's also a game that punishes you for excessive greediness. You have to understand why a double-headed dragon is better than a triple-headed dragon, and why second-rate fire is better than third-rate fire, in order to really do well in this game. I didn't like Dragon Spirit at first, because of skill issues. Then the more I played it on the Xbox 360 compilation, Virtual Arcade, I got pretty good at it. And now it's one of my absolute favorites. So I bought it as soon as I was able to do so for my Switch on Arcade Archives. I'll also have you know that I'm playing this game on the medium difficulty. In Dragon Spirit, the difficulty specifically affects the speed of enemy movements. In easy, bullets move slower, and in hard, they move faster. I like them somewhere in between, so that's why I played this game on normal, and not easy. Alright, Plesiosaurus boss, let's go. There is a clear difference in this game with the old version and new version. The old version has a little bit of an intro with this music that was cut out in the new version, and the dragon also moves slower, so the game is a lot harder. In the new version, the dragon moves faster, and you have the ability to select what specific stage you want to start the game. I have no problem with this stage, usually, so. Those. Like I said, this is one of those games that thoroughly requires memorization of what each stage has there. I also love how there's a glitch where if you destroy a ground enemy on the left side, it'll take out the one on the right side as well. That usually happens in this stage in particular. There are also various power-ups, some of which are more useful than others. So. That was a close encounter. Get around Phoenix quickly, and we'll move on to the next game. Dragon Spirit Rules. Love this one. Alright, next up is Pac-Mania. Pac-Mania has a clear difference between the Japanese and international versions of the game. In the Japanese version, there are more stages in the first loop. There are fewer stages in the first loop in the international version, and the game's context differs a bit as well. This is a 3D wraparound Pac-Man game where Pac-Man has the ability to jump over the ghosts. And while that might sound fun at first, the game is a lot more difficult because there's a limited amount of the stage that you can see at once, which makes it harder to see where the ghosts are coming for you. And there are also more ghosts, as opposed to only 4 like in other games in the series. So for that reason, the later loops of the game can get absolutely ridiculous. Just so you know, the reason why I bought these Pac-Man arcade games, despite having Pac-Man Museum Plus, is simply so I can play better versions of them. Because in Pac-Man Museum Plus, there are no dip switches, no customizable options for the arcade games. And there's also a bug where the game will have its audio distort. And if you continue playing the game after that without resetting it in-game, it'll crash. So, I didn't want to put up with that, so I just bought these games on Arcade Archives for that reason. If you can survive long enough after getting the doubler pellet, you can really rack up a good score, since you'll be making a lot of 7.650s. There's also a speed-up palette, which temporarily increases your speed. I'm going to use that to get the dots I missed at the bottom here. So there's Pac-Mania. Right. Next up, we got Assault. I'll just do the new version. There we go. This is a unique tank-style game where the game is set on a faraway planet shrouded in mystery over 100 years in the future, where citizens of planet Earth came to live after the planet was facing overcrowdings. And the nature of the people of Earth was very different from the nature of the people of this mysterious planet, enough to cause a massive conflict and start the first ever war on the planet, which was once peaceful. And you, the player, are controlling a tank from the native army, meaning you're actually fighting against planet Earth in this game. And that's pretty fitting for how a lot of people are in this world in real life. And while I'm definitely not one of those people, I do have people in my family that are like that, unfortunately. So, stages are completed in this game by destroying all of the turrets that are at the ending point of most of the stages, like this. Then we go to a different continent of the planet. Go downward. What makes this game particularly difficult is the fact that enemies can attack you even while they're off screen. And while it doesn't look like it, there is a limited number of enemies in every stage. Not an unlimited number. It's just super difficult to find all the enemies and fight them at some stages, is all. The game's control setup is also like Atari's Battle Zone, in that you have a grip for each tread. You use both grips forward to go forward and backwards and backward. You hold one up and one down to turn. Then you turn both to the side to do a dodge roll, and both of them away from each other to do a wheelie, which will then allow you to shoot grenades and take out enemies in a bigger cluster. There are also jump pads, which allow you to shoot grenades while jumping. See a good range of enemies that are coming your way. There is a little bit of fairness in this game in that if you lose a stock, it's instantaneous respawn. So you can just keep going from where you were previously destroyed. That can make the game a little bit more forgiving than some others if you're patient enough to get familiar with the game's controls. There they are right here. Not bad, huh? Next up, we have Cho Zetsuringen Bravo Man. This is not a game I play often at all, or really enjoy playing, purely because of skill issues. This is one of the hardest games by Namco Arcade to beat on one credit, because of how easy it is to take hits with the slower inputs for your attacking and jumping. You're better off just to use continues after each power down, since you can continue from that very moment at the cost of resetting your score. Which was exactly what I did in the long play I did. So. I'm Dr. Bomb. I have heard that the PC Engine port of Bravo Man is better than the arcade version, and I know it's shorter because I've seen gameplay of that on YouTube. So, you know, you just never know what you might be missing. After you collect enough Japanese character pickups, Lottery Man will appear and give you a different power-up item that can do different sorts. And then he'll also give you a rice ball with each one at the end of the stage to recover some of your vitality. I feel like this game was made on the same engine as the Genji and the Heike clans, because the Wrecking Balls that you just saw look exactly like the Wrecking Balls do in that game, as well as the Crusher Stones you see in the Japanese castle stages. So. There are also these underwater stages that act as a shoot 'em up. These are also very difficult because there's a limit to your rate of fire for both weapons. The enemies can corner you easily with their bullets, and there's a limit to how far forward you can go to the first half of the screen. So, in the PC Engine version, it looks like you can go forward further. So, I can see where people would get at by saying the PC Engine version of the game is better. explosion. Watch me struggle to try and beat this boss. Oh, I thought I was gonna fail. Like I said, I'm not really a fan of this game, and it's entirely just because of skill issues. This game's a little too difficult for my taste, so there you go. Next up, we got the sequel to Baraduke, Bakutatsu's Kiju-tei. Not as good as the original, in my opinion. So we're helping the packets once again. This is a left-to-right scroller, where you just have to make it to the end of the gate while shooting enemies that get in your way. And you get more points for bringing back surviving packets. They can block enemies' bullets with their lives, and even get capsules to shoot along with you. I was one packet away from the maximum point bonus of 7650, so whatever. The high score system in this game is defective anyway. And then you get this rider, which can increase your fire a little bit. Packet the Cat says, somebody left a comment saying that on the long play I did in this game. And yeah, I can kind of see where they're getting there. So, occasionally people will leave funny comments. I'll do one more stage before I move on. So there's a bit of that game for me. Alright, next up we got Ordine, which is one of my favorites as well. Easily one of the most overlooked and underrated games by Namco Arcade in my opinion. This game needs more attention than it actually got. This is a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up game with some elements in common with Gradius and Fantasy Zone. You got this scientist named Dr. Tamari that's out to rescue his girlfriend and an atomic energy device called Ordine that was stolen by the antagonist Kubota. So you got a blaster and a bomber, kind of like Gradius, to destroy enemies. You also get currency for destroying entire enemy formations or tougher enemies, which you can redeem for some upgrades. This game is also really not that hard. It's actually pretty easy. You also respawn instantaneously for losing stock, so in my opinion, this is one of the more fair arcade games by this company. And I really do think I could legitimately one credit clear it if I really wanted to try. I'll give it some thought up ahead. So there are these inns by Miyuki-chan where you can get various upgrades for weapons or speed up. And you have to pick the weapons you want wisely because they deplete after a while. So it's like Fantasy Zone for that reason. Gotta buy the weapon upgrades you want wisely. I use the burner on the airship because it helps to make quick work of it. You even get some crystals at the end of the stage as well. I'll play this stage as well, and then we'll move on. There's also Dream Company Limited, which gives you a roulette, where you can try your hand at winning an in-game power-up. I got the Stock Bomber, that's not bad at all. Unlike the other Buster weapons, the Stock Bomber does not run out after a bit, and lasts rather until you take a hit from a solid object. It absorbs normal bullets, and allows you to do a more powerful counterattack with them. And if you use an auto-fire key, the Stock Bomber can shoot more than 3 bullets at once. It's weaker than the normal Buster without auto-firing, though. Unless you power it up. Some stages also have these really neat turny effects that you fly through. I'm not sure how I would have felt about Namco Museum Volume 4 if I ever played it as a kid. Just because all of the games in Volume 4 are more obscure, and are games that not everybody knows. I'm gonna buy the speed up here. Unlike the weapon upgrades, you will not lose a speed up if you lose a stock after buying one of those. So, that's good. And I do think that if I did play Volume 4 as a kid, I'd probably like Ordyne the best, because it would be the one I probably would have beaten before the others. And maybe Assault as well. So if I was a kid playing some of those games, I might have hated some of them. So I'm really glad that I understand how stuff works more now as an adult. And that I got a chance to ever play them myself. I'm not gonna buy the Rapid Fire since I have the Stock Bomber still. Yeah, that's a real good place to put the alligator. Alright. Now we make it to the boss, the giant blue turtle, as the game calls it. That's not a blue turtle, mister, I'm colorblind. Though, the one you fight in the boss rush at stage 6 is blue, so And then Tamari and the baby face are fanning themselves. You probably want to do that as well if you went through a volcanic tunnel. And yeah, I love Ordyne. Fantastic game. I'm gonna repurchase that on my new Nintendo account that I'll have to make for my Switch successor for sure. Alright, next up is Metal Hawk, a warfare game about operating a helicopter and bombing the crap out of enemy camps. I like this game a lot more than I thought it would. It's not that hard, it's pretty fair. You just have to make good use of the ascent mechanic. Because ascending allows you to see more of the stage and where you're going at. And then you have to go low enough in order to actually hit the targets with the bomber missiles that you have to destroy in order to rack up enough points to beat the stage. Throughout the game, there will be an arrow that'll point at the target you are recommended to destroy next for more points. And if you exceed the amount of points you need to beat the stage, you progress to the next one. Some of the stages can be played in a different order. In some stages like this, you might want to destroy some of the buildings as well, just to get some extra points to help rack up. You also gotta watch out for aerial enemies. If you're playing the game on easy with the preference settings, none of the aerial enemies will shoot bullets at you, and they'll only kamikaze you. So, that can help make the game even easier. Then you only have to worry about ground enemies shooting. Like these tanks here. There. Okay. So that's Metal Hawk. Pretty cool game in my opinion. Pretty fun. Alright, now we suffer again, as we do Pro Tennis World Court, which is a generic tennis game. Yeah, this is a generic tennis game. In order to do well in this, you basically have to memorize the different characters' attributes, which I haven't really done yet. I haven't been interested in playing this much. I just know I'm using a fast character against a slow character. Wow. Wow. Awful. Ah. Ah. Lost my lead in an instant. Not good. Screw that game. Alright. Next up is Mirai Ninja. So, here we go. This game is about a futuristic, robotic-looking ninja named Shiranori that's going out to fight against an evil demon. He's very fast and has a shuriken that can really fire quickly with rapid fire if you use an auto-fire key. You have Vitality, represented by a Japanese numeral at the top of the screen. There are some different power-ups, one of which restores some of your health, and you get some of it back at the end of every stage as well. There are power-ups that allow you to shoot a 3-way shuriken. Then you have to fight a boss at the end of the stage. Alright, I'll do this stage as well. Can't go that way. I have to go this way. I forgot those should have been. So. Then here's the boss. I know this game doesn't look bad. It's bad. There is one stage at the end of the game that'll make you regret playing it for sure. Just so you're aware. Alright, next up we have Xevious, another shoot-'em-up game. Xevious is a warrior riding on a Pegasus with a sword that shoots beams, which he uses to destroy enemies, as he fights to rescue his fiancée Arthemius from a demon opera. I always avoid the options on purpose because they can tend to hinder you, actually. Kind of like how certain max upgrades in Dragon Spirit hinder you. And you can charge your shot as well. The enemies are taking less hits than normal to destroy because I'm playing the game on the easy mode. And it's just a showcase after all. Some stages have power-ups that are specifically meant for certain sections of the stage like this. They run out after a certain number of shots are fired. I think they have an easy mode in Xevious for a reason, because the final boss, Opera, in the hard mode is one of the hardest bosses you'll ever fight in any game. Legitimately. I can't beat him without using an auto-fire key for fully charged shots. In the easy mode, he's basically a joke. There are also fewer stages in the easy mode than in the hard mode. So. I explained all of that in my long play video for this game. I'll take out Medusa real quick before we move on to the next game. even. Alright, so there's Philios. Next up, we have Rompers. A puzzle game with some humorous elements. This country boy named Chap gets his girlfriend Romina kidnapped by an imp, and he has to go through a labyrinth world in order to save her. Stages are completed by picking up all of the keys. Your only way of protecting yourself from the enemies is by pushing down certain walls on top of them. And then they'll respawn after a while by means of an egg hatch. This game is very hard, actually, because if you lose a stock, the keys reset, so you can't really afford to die at all in the game. And some of the later stages require luck, literally, in order to beat them. These armadillo enemies are also a pain. I ranked this game D in my tier list for a reason. You have to see the whole game in order to understand why. These guys can push down the walls as well. Just a few stages of that game. Next up, we have Blast Off, which is a game with a connection to Bosconian. This game has 6 total stages with 3 rounds each. In the first round, you're in the basic shoot 'em up where you can move in 8 directions. Your ship has 4 different gun options that you can toggle and rotate through in order to hit enemies at different positions, which can be useful if mastered. You also have to watch out for the spy ships. If they leave the screen, mines will come at you and clutter the scene up even more. Awful. I missed the core, and then I collided with the base manga. This game has checkpoints, I'll have you know. So. Then from there, you go to the base's exterior and destroy the weapons to make an opening. Why is it so hard to outmaneuver? Then you infiltrate the base and proceed to destroy the reactor core. Your ship is shown up close while you're in the scene, so you have less space to move around in, so you have to be careful of the enemy attacks. Memorization is key, like with most other games like this. Then the reactor cores are also very difficult to destroy. You have to get really good at dodging their bullets, basically. I was lucky enough for it to get a pause, along with the Wendy's. Let's go. We have a flashing screen up ahead. Yeah, that was Blast Off. Really glad Bosconian got a sequel. Next up is The Legend of Valkyrie. Actually the second entry in this franchise. Valkyrie's debut game, which was 1986 on the Famicom, and is available on Arcade Archives as well, is The Adventure of Valkyrie. The Legend of Valkyrie, which was 1989, was an actual arcade. It was like the star game of Namco Museum Volume 5. So you control the goddess Valkyrie after she descends from the heavens to save the world from corruption. There are some different secrets in the game. It's basically how an action-adventure game from the arcade should be, so I quite enjoy this one. Knowing where all the witches and their spells are will also help make the game a bit easier for you. There's also a merchant that'll sell you different items. It's just like Grobda. You can make shopping plans for each spot in every playthrough you do, since the items and pricing are the same for every spot they appear in every playthrough. You also have to choose what you buy wisely, because the different weapons you can get have a limited number of uses. So, gotta take out these flying mandrills before I hop across. I made sure it worked with the boss. At the end of every stage is an intermission. Alright, make that work. Gotta take out all the flying mandrills before I jump across. I should have waited. I gotta focus. Let's get the Cyclone spell. I just used up my super sword, so that means might be. I'll just get another one of those, that'll be fine. This stage's boss has some different routes you can go in. And the more complex the route you take, you get different better items after you do them. So that's Legend of Valkyrie. Next up is Burning Force. Another pretty unique game by Namco. The protagonist of this game, Hiromi, is a student that's in school to become a space pilot, and her graduation test is several days worth of doing dangerous shoot-em-up tasks on her hover cycle. So you can accelerate to go faster and decelerate to help dodge attacks. At the end of every stage is a boss. You also have missiles to help take out groups of enemies or help weaken bosses easier. Use those wisely. There are different power-ups you can get that change your main blaster as well. There are some for power, and there are some for range. Boss here. The third stage of every day is a main boss fight, where you get this extension that allows you to move in 8 directions. And you get a preview of the boss and where to hit it at the start as well. I'm not paying attention to my power-ups, and the main laser is probably not the laser is probably not the best weapon. It's because so forgive me as it takes a while to destroy this boss. Keep in mind that if you lose a stock in this game, it's instantaneous respawn. You just lose your laser upgrade. Then the fourth area of every day is a bonus round, where you try to collect all the orbs. I found out that you have to shoot some of the obstacle orbs in some of the later challenging stages in order to get perfects in them. And the secret that allows you to warp universes in the third stage involves the star spinners that you see in the second section. To update what I need to talk about in the long playthrough. Perfect challenging stage right there. Alright, so that was Burning Force. Next up is Dangerous Seed. This is another one of those space-style shoot-'em-up games. In the first half of the game, your ship splits into 3, and you use one of them at once as you attempt to escape while destroying various enemies, followed by a boss. The longer you survive, your weapon will become slightly stronger. You also have hit points instead of remaining lives, as well as special weapons. Whichever ships you have left, and you use them in the order, you can't use them freely, will be used in the second half of the stage after the fourth stage of the 2 section. So suppose this big spider. There we go. This game is not easy by any means. Trying to be it legitimately, you're probably going to struggle. So it's another one of those games I kind of have skill issues with that prevent me from enjoying it that much. These hyper boosters in some stages as well. Not good, not good. I'll just use my ring laser since I'm just showcasing. There we go. I'm gonna get out of here before we see any suffering. Right. Next up is Pistol Daimyo no Boken, which I explained before is a spin-off of Bravo Man. Because there is a boss in Bravo Man called the Pistol Lord, and he's this very character you play as in this game. They must have thought he deserved his own game, so they made one. This is a very Japanese culture-oriented game, and it has a sense of humor as well. You might think the game would be pretty hilarious, maybe, if you knew Japanese, with some of the quotes, so. You control Pistol Daimyo around as you scroll from left to right in the stage. You can charge his cannon to do a more powerful shot. I prefer the auto-fire with medium bullets. That helps make the game a lot easier. Auto-firing uncharged bullets doesn't cut it on any enemy that takes more than one hit to destroy, so. Even just by looking at some of the bosses, you can tell that this is a funny game, a humorous one. I'll just go with Frog Horse. I'm only showcasing after all. There are some power-ups you can get to make Pistol a little bit stronger if you survive on the stock with him. That's a boss. An easy boss, if I may say. Armor, not bad. Take out this boss, then we'll move on. So there's Pistol Daimyo no Boken. Next up we have Dragon Saber, which is a sequel to Dragon Spirit. Dragon Saber is not as fun or good as Dragon Spirit, and some people absolutely hate this game. Mainly because of how trolly the default game setting is. Ordinarily, you have no hit points, and taking one hit will result in stock loss, as opposed to having hit points in Dragon Spirit. You can play with hit points, though, with dip switches, or preference settings. The game is also a lot more difficult with its enemy placement, and some stages can infuriate you easily. The final boss is also very difficult and actually has a ranking system, so that kind of hurts the game a little bit as well. approaching the boss. Gotta be careful while moving around this one. There are also eggs that give you elemental power-ups that allow your dragon to attack with both air and ground attacks differently based on different elements. Like the fire element you have in this stage. I do like that every arcade game that was ever in a Namco museum, except for Q and that other Pac-Man game that must not be named, is on Arcade Archives. Q probably will come eventually, and the live stream Hamster did for the Quest of Kai had them teasing GB, which was the first game Namco ever made. So maybe that game will come to the live soon. Dang it, couldn't avoid the image. With GB and then Bombi being QDQ's predecessors, you'd think they'd have to come first, right? So, you know. Right, so that was Dragon Saber. Next up is Cosmo Gang the Video. I describe this game as a cartoonish version of Galaga, because that's basically what it is. So if you like Galaga, I'm sure you'll like this game as well. Just shoot out the Cosmo Gangs as they assemble the formation and destroy them before they do so to you. I like how I destroyed the Cosmo boss as soon as he appeared, before I even saw him. And got his blaster in return. And then, a well-aimed whirlwind I used wiped out the entire stage in an instant. Ridiculous. There are different power-ups you can get as well that can help turn the fight in your favor. Some of the later stages have more difficult enemies, like the saucers. You can even play the game in co-op. So. Yeah. It's instantaneous respawn if you lose a stock. There's still one more, I noticed. There. Okay, you guys. Steal energy. There are 4 challenging stages in the game where you use a blaster to stop the Cosmo gangs from stealing your energy resources. Number of hits and accuracy are both scored for you for your bonus at the end. You can play co-op to make them easier, obviously. So.
We'll win next time.
I was 1 notch away from a perfect. Was it the shot I randomly missed at the very end? Huh? Maybe. Alright, now we got Cosmo Game the Puzzle. The game that Pack Attack is literally based on. Observe. Yeah. You just rotate the blocks as they fall in clusters of 3 and line up energy capsules into a row to erase them and use the crystal balls to knock out the Cosmo Gang aliens. See how long you can survive on 1 credit. As you can tell, this is the game that Pack Attack is literally based on. They made an SNES version of the game. They made the Super Famicom port of Cosmo Game the Puzzle before that as well. And the SNES Cosmo Game the Puzzle is available for play on the NSO SNES app as well. And that has Pack Attack's puzzle. So, a little bit of a tidbit for you. I think it's hilarious that somebody left a comment on a reply I made on this game's trailer from Arcade Archives saying just wait for the SNES game to come to the NSO app. And then it literally does a few months later, before any other non-COD game on the SNES that I know. So. At least the SNES version of the game doesn't have the changing background while you're playing. Elements from Cosmo Game the Puzzle are also used in Big Doug Arrangement Arcade. So to see elements from a game I wouldn't know about until all these years later, being the game I loved in the past, is also a nice touch. Seriously though, I want Namco Classic Collections to come to Arcade Archives. They could sell them for like $15 instead of $8, you know. They could. Just a suggestion. Since I got the star, that's gonna be where I end this game. Alright, just a few more to go. Next up is Xevious, which is a kind of combat game with up to 4 players. This is not an easy game to play solo, and it's best played with other players. You run around the castle, breaking treasure chests and collecting items that enhance your abilities, while trying to ambush your enemies with electrifying orbs to destroy them. If you're playing the game solo, you're going to get destroyed if you're not familiar with the game and how to really corner your opponents. So. You have to be very, very smart and quick in order to beat this game. There's that guy. One down. That's more to my liking. I have to win one more in order to actually beat the stage. Every third stage in each castle is the dragon room. The dragon doesn't blow fire, though, until the third castle and onward. So that's not going to help me at all either. One down. No, why Steph gotta go after me and not him? That's not fair. It's not fair at all. Ugh, not good. No, they cornered me. I'll give it one more shot. If it fails, I'm gonna have to live with it. Because this game can get pretty aggravating. Oh, that's going after me again. Why? He doesn't usually go after me in casual plays. Middle finger to that game. Xvania is alright to play casually with save states. If you're trying to legit one credit clear it, though, it's extremely aggravating. So, yeah. Alright, the next game is Knuckle Heads. And this is the one and only fighting game that'll be in this video. I've only done the playthrough of this game once so far, with Vincent. So, that'll be the character I use. I'm gonna have to play the game a lot more in order to determine which of the 6 characters I want to make be my main in this game. You have a high attack and a low attack command, as well as jumping. And you can grab and throw the opponent by pressing the attack buttons, either one of them, with the opponent directly up at you. If you keep the high or low attack held down, and then release it after your aura is big, you can do a stronger attack. That can do bigger damage to the opponent if the attack is not blocked. As arcade-style fighting games go, this is not an easy game by any means. So, you have to be really, really good at arcade fighters in order to stand a chance in it at all. So there you go, I had a near miss. Not bad, not bad. That'll be the only fight I do in this video. Alright, next up is Emeraldia, which is a puzzle action game semi-based on Cosmo Game the Puzzle. Except the way you clear blocks in it is very different, and the game is a lot harder and more confusing. For Emeraldia, I'll just do the first ocean in the adventure mode. This is one of the hardest games to do actual long play of. Because of the adventure mode. And even though you can continue and reset the block's scrolling level to make the rest of the game easier, there is one stage at the very end, the escape stage after you destroy Jameer, that is impossible to beat unless you have godlike coordination. In the long play video I did, that part of the game took me more than an hour on end to finally beat that dang stage. So, and that was with several containers used. So, as you can probably interpret, this is definitely not a game I enjoy playing. Although occasionally I'll go into the basic puzzle mode on easy just to progress until the limit, and then I'm satisfied. So, definitely not a game I prefer to Cosmo Game the Puzzle. You're supposed to break blocks until the fish hit the bottom row without a block underneath them. And then they go back into the ocean and are saved. There are also some power-ups you can get throughout the game that you can use wisely. So, there you go. Next up is Numan Athletics. A sporting game with superhumans, essentially.
Ladies and gentlemen, the finals are about to begin. Are you ready? Here we go. And the event is...
Alright, so, in order to beat Numan Athletics, you have to be good at control alteration. So, some of the stages in this game give you more than one chance to actually beat it, like this one. So if you fail one and win the other, you pass, basically. Really have to focus here. Alright, again. So, there you go. That's a good victory quote. This isn't my best, you know. So there you go. The final game that I will be playing in this video is called Tinkle Pit. And no, that's not actually what the game is about. It's about a boy named Pit with a Tinkerball that he uses to attack enemies as he fights to rescue his town from corruption from a demon. You basically set a trap with the ball and release it to destroy enemies as they come. Now, I wasn't paying attention that there were only 3 enemies in that stage, so there goes my perfect. I'm just showcasing moves though, so whatever. There are a few different power-ups as well. Like balls that you can throw at the enemies if they're in front of you. And what makes Tinkle Pit particularly interesting is that the game has a lot of references to other arcade games by Namco. The enemies you see in this stage, the toy soldiers, are from Toy Pop. There are also several scenes in the game where if you move to a specific spot of the maze, you'll make a sprite of a character or object from another Namco arcade game appear that you can get for bonus points. So the fact that this game references a lot of Namco classics is what really gets me about this game and positive. It's a really nice touch. And then, of course, the Pukas are clearly from Dig Dug. So, there's a coin. Finish this stage off real quick, and then we'll be on our way. Alright, so that was a showcase of every Namco arcade game, actual arcade game, that is currently on Arcade Archives. Internationally. There are 4 games by Namco that didn't come internationally. I know Fighter and Attacker was intended to stay Japan only, and then the other ones that got banned were Marvel Land, Finest Hour, and Face Off. I also didn't include Mazinger Z, because that game is actually by Band Presto. They're just passing it off as a Namco game. And then there are also a few games by Namco on the Famicom that are on Arcade Archives as well, some of which are not in the Namco Museum Archive compilations. So maybe I'll check those out at some point up ahead as well. Alright. While I'm thinking about what more I could do for my channel, I thought maybe I'd showcase some of my fan art from my DeviantArt account on YouTube as videos. So if you like certain games that I like Spyro or Mega Man, you can look forward to that. And I'll try to do more how to draw videos as well. So, you know, freehand drawing is one of my strengths, so I figured I could do that as well. Alright, so that's it for this video. Until my next upload, I am Crolister, Master of Ponage. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next upload. See ya.